Hi everyone, welcome back to the cottage. Today I am talking all about paper clutter and the tips and tricks that I use to keep it under control. And I've got a secret that involves this little clipboard here that you're not going to want to miss. First of all, I want to be sure to give a shout out to the Mega Motivation group that is putting together this playlist this week. I have to admit, I am not a complete expert on paper clutter. It is, along with digital clutter, one of the areas I do still feel like I need to have a little bit more work on, and so I'm super excited about the playlist this week to find out what other people are doing to control their paper clutter. And if that's something that interests you, be sure to check out the playlist that I will have linked below in the description box. I want to talk first about 3 reasons why I think that paper clutter becomes such an overwhelming issue in our homes. The first one is that it comes to us sort of without our consent. It isn't like we went to a store to pick out, a shirt or a tool or something like that, and we chose it and we brought it home and we knew exactly what we were going to do with it. These things kind of come to us without us even asking for them sometimes. We get junk mail and different pieces of paper that just kind of float into our lives, and we aren't really sure, we didn't really have a plan of what to do with that paper. The second reason is just the sheer volume of it. We get tons of junk mail through the mailbox, we get receipts that we bring home from stores, we have kids' paperwork. If they're in school, you get permission slips and all sorts of appointment reminders and things like that. And this time of year, of course, we're getting tax documents. It just keeps coming and coming and coming, and it's just very overwhelming. And the third reason that I think that it gets pretty overwhelming for us in our homes is that we just aren't sure that we feel quite right getting rid of it. We want to keep it just in case there's something important on there. Sometimes there's documents that might have a date and time on the piece of paper that we worry if we throw it away, we're gonna forget what day this is happening, or maybe we have something we need to sign and we just haven't gotten to it yet, and so you just kind of hold on to it. And it's so small, it's so thin, and you feel like you can just stack it up or put it in a box. It doesn't take up that much space, but when you get lots and lots and lots of it, it does take up space, and that's where the problem starts to creep into our lives. All right, so if we're going to control the paper clutter, we need to take a few steps first. The first one is to try to reduce the quantity that's coming in, because if you're already sinking in paper clutter that you're going to need to go through, the last thing you need is more things piling on top of it. So I would suggest signing up for automatic bill payments, for statements to be digital only instead of getting a paper copy. Don't take home things such as receipts if you can help it, if you can maybe remember the number, if you have an online statement balance that you can check. The second thing that you can do is to assess the items that come in immediately. So as soon as you get your mail, look through it right away. If there's junk mail, usually, I think ours is usually about 80% junk mail, you can just throw it right in the recycle bin. You don't have to think about it much more than that. If you get a permission slip, for example, that your child brings home from school, sign it right away, put it right back in their backpack so that it's out of your way. I will sometimes take a picture of that permission slip if there's some important information on it in terms of like what time these things are happening, and then I'll go ahead and also put that in the calendar so that I can have a reminder that way. Just anything basically that comes in, process it right away so that you don't have to worry about going through a backlog of it later. Kids' art projects can be another source of paper clutter that comes in, and I've solved that issue by taking a picture of the item or scanning it right away when it comes home. And if it's like a 3-dimensional type object, I'll snap a picture of my kid holding the item so that we'll have that memory of the project that was done, and then I can get rid of those extra papers and extra projects. And I do intend to eventually make them into a nice little book that I can have here to kind of flip through and just remember the different projects that they had. It'll probably take up about this much space compared to all the space that those projects would take up if we were to hold on to every single one. If you're someone who gets magazine subscriptions, you can find that to be a little bit overwhelming too. I have done a full-length video about what I do to control magazine clutter, but the long and short of it is that if you get a magazine, as you're reading it, actually tear out the pages that are interesting to you and then put them into clear plastic sleeves that you can put into a binder. And this way you can hold on to like the recipes or like inspirational things that you find in these magazines and get rid of all the extra advertisements and things like that. So in that way, I see that as processing that paper clutter right away. Don't keep those magazines stacking up on your side table to go through later, because it's going to be a lot harder to go through 5 of them than it is to just go through it as you're reading it. There's no doubt that there will be papers you will need to hold on to, either in the long term or the short term. We just can't get away from it completely. And so my advice on that is to categorize which group that the paper product falls into as soon as you can. If it's an important document that you need to save or hold on to and reference for the long term, I suggest putting that directly into your file cabinet or your fire safe. And if it's something that needs attention fairly soon but not immediately, that is where these handy dandy clipboards come into play. I've been using this clipboard method for a couple of years now, and it has served me very well. It's simple, user-friendly, and pretty much foolproof as far as I can tell. And the general idea of it is to get yourself a few clipboards. I recommend having at least 3 of them so that you can have different categories. I think I have about 4 or 5 maybe even here at the cottage. And what you do then is, as paperwork comes in, if it goes into a specific category that you have more things that go in that same category, you put it right in the clipboard so that all of those categorized items are all together. And I'm going to give you an example of how I use it. So we have a couple of surgeries that are coming up for family members here in our home, and that's going to be in the next 6 months or so. And we've already started to get paperwork regarding pre-op appointments and the different things that need to be done ahead of the surgery, pre-qualifications for insurance, and all those different things that come through. And I want to make sure that I have everything saved for reference. And so as those things are coming in, I'm just putting them directly on the clipboard so that if I need to reference, I can just go right to that specific clipboard and look at it. Another example would be tax paperwork, which we've been getting a lot of that lately too, and so I have a separate clipboard for that I put all of my tax information on. The great thing about the clipboards is that they are portable, and so if I need to bring with any of this paperwork to the surgeries on surgery day, I could just grab it and bring it with me and have everything right there. And if I'm going to do the taxes, I just grab that and bring it to my computer. I don't have to shuffle through anything. The other thing that's awesome about clipboards is that they are more vertical than horizontal in terms of their storage. And so if you have horizontal storage, it kind of acts like a countertop would. Things are easily stacked here, and you don't always know what's going on down at the bottom. Things get lost in the shuffle. And so with a clipboard, it's more vertical. You can easily look through it. The other thing is, a lot of them have these little clips at the top that you can hang them directly on the wall if you have space for that. And it's just a really simple way to kind of keep organized. And once you're done with those pieces of paperwork, then it's just as easy to take that category of things and bring it to the recycle bin. So once the surgeries are over, I will be able to shred some of it or recycle it. And then for, of course, the tax documents, once I'm finished filing the taxes, those of course will go into our file cabinet or our fire safe. So that is what I use for controlling my own personal paper clutter. Now, before I had this system, I definitely had an issue with piles of paper, and there were quite a few times I needed to sit down and actually go through all of the paper clutter that I had accumulated. At one point, we had a very large file cabinet, and I was keeping everything from utility bills to all the receipts and just everything. It's just like, if I had the space for it, I just kept it. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that a lot of the things that I was keeping in the file cabinet weren't actually things I would ever reference. For example, if I want to find out what my utility bill was for last month, I can call up the utility company and find that information out. If I have paper bills, there's no reason for me to actually hold on to the bill once I've paid it. And so I have eliminated a lot of those files. The things that were important, I was able to fit all of that into our fire safe. So we actually don't even have a file cabinet anymore. We just have a fire safe that has kind of a filing system to it. And it feels a lot more light now to know that most of my papers that I'm keeping full-time are in my fire safe, and everything else that I'm keeping on the short term is in these clipboards. If you are someone who is staring down piles or even boxes of paper clutter that has accumulated through the years, I have been there. I remember how overwhelming that it can feel. I just want to encourage you to not try to tackle it all at once. I would say tackle maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, just going through a little bit at a time, and with consistency, I promise you will get through all the paper clutter. And once you have a new system in place that doesn't involve piling up paper, you know that you aren't going to be in the same place again. So just keep working through it, and you're going to come out on the other side feeling much more free. That is all I have for you today. If you are someone who is interested in the topic of decluttering your papers and keeping organized with your papers going forward, definitely make sure to check out the Mega Motivation playlist. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will have that link down below. I plan to go check it out myself, and I hope that you will too. Thanks so much for watching my video today, and I hope that you'll stop by the cottage again really soon.